Yobachi 2007 back at you with another one. This is the Brick Lady scam and the Susan Smith and Emmett Till of it all. And we're going to look at a couple of things here again with this scam to really understand this campaign to denigrate black men that has been going on for centuries, and I mean decades at least, and over a century. Before we get into this decades-long and centuries-long campaign, can I get you to take a moment to like and subscribe this video? If you'll take a moment, hit the like button. It'll really help me out. So I'd appreciate it if you like the video very quickly, and we'll get right back to the program. This campaign against black men most specifically and most vigorously started off with a man, filmmaker W.D. Griffith, in his 1915 film, Birth of a Nation. Let's take a little top of that real quick.
The most innovative film in cinema history is often considered the most racist. But did this ambitious, high-budget blockbuster simply reflect the views of a nation, or did it create them?
So you can see in this clip, they have white men in blackface right here. That's what this guy uses, a white dude. He's painted up to represent a black person. And you have the Ku Klux Klan saving the white woman from being raped by the marauding Negroes. And that's what this propaganda movie, it was a motion picture in the theaters at the time, but it was a racial propaganda film that basically set the stage for Jim Crow in America and the image of black men tarred as these over-sexualized, marauding, violent beast that needed to be subdued, and the hero clan was there to save the day.
Racist.
So that's what that was. But as we're going to see in this presentation, that women have taken the crown and taken up that mantle of this campaign to denigrate and destroy black men's image, so that anything can then be done to a black man, it can be justified for any horrors and any abuses and just any political, social, or legal action up to cops killing black people in the street is then justified. These acts against men are then justified. And so getting back to this brick lady, let's listen to this clip because we're going to get a point from this that we're going to talk about in relationship to that point I just made.
And they don't give a yeah, this man hit me. He grabbed a rock and he hit me in my face, and I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch.
Now, listen to how she's having to describe to them what happened. These men, who she says were all there and saw this happen, and look at the two guys in the background here wearing black shirts, because that's gonna be prominent. But listen to how she's having to describe to them what happened, how she starts everything off talking about they, not talking about a specific man who hit her, but they, the men, all the black men in the vicinity are the problem, or who she's focusing attention against, who she's focusing negative, derogatory attention against, black men in general, not a specific person who did something to her. And listen again, she has to tell these guys what happened because nobody saw this happen.
And they don't give a yeah, this man hit me. He grabbed a rock and he hit me in my face, and I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch.
Now look what, and listen to how the guy's asking, what do you want us to do? Because they're there now. They weren't there when it happened. Now, I was pointing out those two guys in the background with black shirts. Okay, listen to them give an interview about what happened, about what they know about what happened. See what else Miss Susie Q. Sweet was up to that evening from two security guards outside the club who weren't there at the moment it happened, but who encountered her right afterwards.
We were coming from the gas station. We just came from the gas station, right? And she was talking about, she got hit with a brick, you know what I mean?
And we was asking.
So we just like, what just happened, bro? Who just hit you with a brick? She talking about a guy in a suit. You know what I mean? But we saw the guy out here, though. We never knew he was a bad guy, though. You know what I mean?
Now, did you catch all of that? We weren't here when it happened. We came back over here. She told us. We asked her what happened to her. She said she got hit with the brick and then described a guy who was there earlier. So again, She's developing a whole campaign about black men in general not coming out publicly. When she got on her video, she didn't talk about the guy who she talked to them about, who she's saying hit her. She got on here and put these videos out talking about black men in general. All the black men just stood around and let her get beat with the brick, and none of them gave a what. But she's having to tell them over and over again, the guy she's talking to in this video, these two guys who were in the background of that video, all the black men there, she's having to tell them about the situation. None of them were there when she actually got hit by her own presentation that we can see. And then she makes it a point to have a campaign to rail against black men and to paint them as awful, evil lowlifes who deserve whatever happens to them, right? So that's the campaign. Now I want you to hear about this campaign, to pick it up in the 90s, who picked it up from W.D. Griffin. Well, actually, we're going to go with this one first, and then we're going to go back and look at another one in the mid-1900s.
On October 5th, 1994, 23-year-old Susan Smith grabbed national attention when she called the police and told them that an anonymous black man had kidnapped her children during a carjacking. For the next 9 days, she made dramatic pleas on national TV. Please bring my children home. After an intensive and expensive nationwide investigation seeking out these kids, she finally confessed on November 3rd of 1994. No one had taken her kids. In fact, she had gotten out of her car and let it roll into the John D. Lang Lake, drowning them inside, making Susan another one of the bizarre cases that happened in the 90s where white women blamed anonymous black men for kidnapping them or their children.
All right, so let's move forward. This is Susan Smith. This is her now. This is her back then. This is the picture. This fake-looking, big-lipped, extremely dark skin, and then these bulged-out lips. Looks like what is it called? Just a stereotype of the kind of jigaboo image of black men. And people were calling this fake just based on seeing this image. They were like, nah, this didn't happen. This is not even a person. This is a stereotype drawing. But what happened at that time in South Carolina, they rounded up black men in that community and were trying to force them all to take DNA tests or give blood tests. And were basically going around that community harassing and rounding up black men based on this white woman making an accusation that a black man who didn't exist did something to her kids out of everybody's sight that she had actually done. So does that sound familiar? Nobody's around to see it. A black man gets accused for it. Okay? This is going to be very low volume, so you're going to have to really listen up. But it's really quick, and it's a very good point from a news report at the time.
Search for the suspected assailant. This echoes other cases in recent years where Afro-Americans were falsely accused of committing a...
That's why I call the black women who put...
This echoes other cases in recent years where Afro-Americans were falsely accused of committing a particular crime. Former Camden County, New Jersey prosecutor Sam Aspel conjured up a story once about being a victim of a crime by black men, later found to be a hoax. And in Boston, of course, the familiar case of Charles Stewart.
Okay, so we heard some cases there from the news. Now, let me look at something. This is Emmett Till. He was a Chicago native. His mom was a Mississippi native who had migrated to Chicago, part of that great migration in the 40s and the 50s of black folks up to the many Midwest and northern cities. And she sent him back down south to spend the summer with some cousins and uncles and aunts. And we don't know what really happened at the store with the white woman. The story has been told differently so many different times, mostly by her lying and making up, claiming that he touched her. But he whistled at her. He said, "Bye, baby." He did something. Spoke to her in some kind of way. It could have been no matter how, but whatever. It was very mundane. He definitely never laid his hands on her. But she went and told her husband and made up this accusation against him. And then this is what they did to that 14-year-old boy. His mom made sure to have an open casket funeral so the world could see what was done to her son. They pistol whipped him in his face till it was this swollen and broken. Even parts of his skull fell out. This is what W.D. Griffith has sold, and white women initially have carried throughout time, have carried that forward. And I'm not even saying the lady's name. She died about 4 months ago. She doesn't deserve to have her name said, who lied and falsely accused Emmett Till and had this happen to them. So this is what white women have done, made up lies about black men to cause this to happen to them. They put out these descriptions with this falsity. What's the difference between that and this? What's the difference? What's the difference between the Emmett Till situation? What's the difference between what Susan Smith did and this right here? And all the black women who made videos when this came out and came for black men and denigrated black men. What's the difference between all those videos that they made and what the video that W.D. Griffith made? The only difference is it's black women who have picked up the torch to torch black men's image, to denigrate and destroy black men's image, to make us vulnerable to assault, to make us vulnerable to police abuse, to make us vulnerable in the courts, and to make us vulnerable in child custody and everything else, that we will be so seen as such low-life human beings and so denigrated that anything that is done to us is justified and acceptable. That is the plan. That is the campaign. That's why I call the black women who push this agenda W.D. Griffith's handmaidens. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Black women are the enemy within, not all of them, maybe not even most of them, but the ones who are on this tip. And we know who they are, and we see them constantly running this game, pushing this narrative. They are with W.D. Griffith and the Klansmen back here. You know, they're just as much our enemy as those white dudes in those Klan outfits. They're just as much our enemy as the white woman who sicked her husband and his buddies on this 14-year-old boy. Because this is what they create for us. This is the reality that they're trying to create for black men with their campaign against us. That is the Susan Smith and Emmett Till of it all. This brick lady, what is her name? She's got changing. She goes by Rhoda Osmond for some scams. She goes by Rhoda Bash for others. But this is the scam. This is the Susan Smith and Emmett Till of it all. This is what the campaign is that she's out here intending to push. This is what she's about. And her fellows, all the other black women who are jumping out the window to come after black men and talking about we don't protect and how horrible we are and how we just stand around and look and all this horrible thing this black man did to this black woman. This is how black men are. It didn't even happen. This is the campaign that they're pushing. They're with W.D. Griffith. Hibachi 2007. I'm out.